The Galactic Council for Planetary Classification had exactly 3 rules. Don't panic, don't make assumptions, and never, under any circumstances, investigate a Class 20 Deathworld without filing Form 847B in triplicate, which is precisely why Queerblut Vex Nomino was currently having what could only be described as a complete nervous breakdown in his ergonomically designed office chair, staring at a blinking red dot on his holographic display that shouldn't exist. "Impossible!" he shrieked, his tentacles flailing wildly as coffee substitute sprayed across his pristine desk. The planet Kepler 442b had just been reclassified from moderately unpleasant to absolutely certain death after their latest deep space scans revealed volcanic activity that could melt titanium, atmospheric pressure that would crush a freight shuttle, and weather patterns that made supernovas look like gentle summer breezes. But that wasn't the impossible part. The impossible part was the massive energy signature coming from what appeared to be recreational facilities. "Queerblut!" came the voice of his assistant, Belinda Frost Whiskers, a 6-legged creature whose species had evolved the remarkable ability to sound perpetually annoyed. "The Deep Space Monitoring Division is on line 7. They're screaming something about organized swimming activities." Queerblut's 3 eyes bulged simultaneously. Swimming. On a planet where the rain was literally acid, and the wildlife consisted primarily of things that could eat starships for breakfast. "Put them through," he wheezed, pressing a button with one of his lesser tentacles while the others continued their panic dance. "Sir," came the frantic voice of Commander Zelf Groaning Stone, whose name had always been unfortunately prophetic. "We've detected what appears to be, and I cannot stress this enough, vacation music coming from the planet's surface." "Vacation music?" "Yes, sir, the kind that plays at resort pools. And, sir, there's more." Queerblut felt his cardiovascular system attempting to relocate itself to another dimension. "More? We're picking up advertisements, sir." "Advertisements. Something called Danger Point Resort and Spa, where extreme relaxation meets extreme everything else. They have a 5-star rating on something called Galactic TripAdvisor." The silence that followed was the kind of silence that occurs when the universe decides to play a particularly cruel joke on someone who just wanted to retire quietly to a nice, safe desk job. "Sir?" came Belinda's voice through the intercom. "The chairman is here to see you. He looks concerned." And Chairman Mortimer Dreadbringer floated into the office with the kind of dignified terror that only comes from 40 years of galactic bureaucracy. His species, the Vorthak, were known throughout the galaxy for their ability to remain calm in the face of absolute chaos. The fact that his usual olive-green complexion had turned a pale yellow was, therefore, deeply concerning. "Queerblut," he said, his voice carrying the weight of impending cosmic doom, "please tell me this is some sort of filing error." "I wish I could, sir, but the readings are consistent across all monitoring stations. Kepler 442b is definitely a Class 20 Deathworld, and there are definitely tourists there." "Tourists?" repeated the chairman, as if the word was an ancient curse he'd accidentally unleashed. "On a Class 20 Deathworld?" "Yes, sir." "Having fun?" "Apparently, sir." "The reviews are quite positive." Chairman Dreadbringer settled into his hover chair with the careful precision of someone whose entire worldview was currently being fed through a meat grinder. "Show me the files." The holographic display flickered to life, revealing a planet that looked like it had been designed by someone with a profound hatred for the concept of life itself. Massive storm systems raged across continents of black glass, while oceans of liquid metal boiled under the radiation of a dying star. Mountain ranges exploded randomly, and the aurora borealis appeared to be on fire. "Magnificent!" came a cheerful human voice from the intercepted communications. "Absolutely spectacular volcanic activity this morning. The sulfur geysers are particularly active today, perfect for our advanced aromatherapy sessions." Queerblut's tentacles went rigid. "Did Did that organic just describe sulfur geysers as aromatherapy? The display shifted to show what appeared to be a resort complex built directly into the side of an active volcano. Palm trees, actual palm trees, swayed gently in the toxic breeze, while humanoid figures lounged in what looked suspiciously like pools of molten lava. "Dear cosmic forces," whispered Chairman Dreadbringer, "they're sunbathing in radiation that would sterilize a moon." "Sir," came Commander Groaningstone's voice again, "we're receiving a transmission from the surface. It appears to be customer service." "Put it through," said the chairman, his voice hollow with defeat. "Hello there, galactic neighbors," came an impossibly cheerful female voice. "This is Penelope Brightwater from Danger Point Resort and Spa. We couldn't help but notice your lovely spacecraft lurking around our little slice of paradise. Would you be interested in our special diplomatic package? It includes complimentary hazmat suits and a guided tour of our famous certain death falls." The three officials stared at the display in the kind of silence usually reserved for funeral services. "Did she just," began Querblat. "Offer us hazmat suits," continued the chairman. "For a vacation package," finished Commander Groaningstone. "That's right," chirped Penelope's voice. "We pride ourselves on being the galaxy's premier destination for beings who find regular vacations just a little too safe. Our motto here at Danger Point is, why settle for mild peril when you can have guaranteed mortal terror with a complimentary mint on your pillow?" Chairman Dreadbringer activated his emergency protocols with the weary resignation of someone who just realized the universe had a sense of humor, and it was terrible. "This is Chairman Mortimer Dreadbringer of the Galactic Council for Planetary Classification. We need to speak with whoever is in charge of this establishment." "Oh, how exciting! A real live chairman. Let me connect you with our general manager, Theodore Ironheart. He's currently leading a group of guests through our signature molten core meditation experience, but I'm sure he can spare a moment." The transmission crackled with what sounded like explosions in the background, followed by delighted laughter and someone shouting, "Again! Do it again!" "This is Theodore Ironheart," came a booming voice that somehow managed to sound both professional and slightly unhinged. "Welcome to Danger Point Resort and Spa. I understand you folks might be a bit confused about our operation here, which is perfectly natural. Most species find our approach to hospitality somewhat unconventional." "Unconventional," repeated the chairman flatly. "You're operating a resort on a Class 20 Deathworld." "Class 20? Oh my, that's generous. Our internal rating system had it pegged at about a 27, but we try not to intimidate potential guests. Tell me, have you ever experienced the unique pleasure of a volcanic sand massage while dodging acid rain? It's remarkably therapeutic." Querblet felt his sanity attempting to file for early retirement. "Sir, with all due respect, our sensors indicate that the atmospheric pressure alone should have crushed your facilities into subatomic particles." "Oh, that old thing. Yes, we had a few structural issues when we first opened. Lost 3 hotel wings to gravitational collapse in the first week. But you know what they say. If you're not living on the edge, you're taking up too much space. We've since upgraded to Mark 7 impossibility-resistant building materials. Wonderful stuff. Completely defies several fundamental laws of physics." "How are you alive?" shrieked Commander Groaningstone. "Excellent question. The secret is really in the attitude, Commander. You see, most species approach dangerous environments with what we call survival instincts and basic self-preservation. Humans, on the other hand, have evolved a much more sophisticated response to mortal peril, which is, we think it's fun." The silence that followed was so complete that it seemed to bend space-time around itself. "Fun," said the chairman eventually. "Absolutely. Take our guest Rodrigo Flameheart, for instance. He's been staying with us for 3 weeks now, and yesterday he achieved a personal best by surviving 17 minutes in our toxic atmosphere yoga class without breathing apparatus. The man's practically glowing with pride. Well, actually, he's glowing from the radiation, but the pride is definitely there too." "You're all going to die," wailed Querblat, his bureaucratic mind finally snapping under the weight of cosmic absurdity. "Well, eventually, yes," agreed Theodore cheerfully. "But the question is, do you want to die of boredom on some safe, predictable planet, or do you want to die spectacularly while getting the best deep tissue massage of your life from a sentient volcano? We believe quality of death is just as important as quality of life." Chairman Dreadbringer activated his emergency flask of Vorthak brandy, which was only to be used in situations involving imminent galactic catastrophe or humans doing something particularly human. "Mr. Ironheart," he said carefully, "are you aware that your planet is classified as uninhabitable by every major galactic civilization?" "Oh, absolutely. We use that as our primary marketing angle. Danger Point Resort, so dangerous, it's illegal in 17 galaxies, really helps with the brand recognition. And I'm proud of this, immensely. Do you have any idea how hard it is to find genuine, authentic, life-threatening experiences these days? Everything's been safety regulated to death. Where's the adventure in a vacation where you're guaranteed to survive? Where's the character building in a resort that doesn't regularly violate the fundamental laws of chemistry?" Belinda's voice crackled through the intercom. "Sir, I'm receiving reports from our monitoring stations across the galaxy. It appears there are hundreds of these human vacation destinations on planets we've classified as uninhabitable." The chairman's brandy flask slipped from his nerveless fingers and clattered to the floor. "Hundreds?" "Yes, sir. There's absolute zero winter wonderland on the ice planet Frostbite 7, Radiation Beach Resort in the Gamma Centauri system, and something called Black Hole Bungee, which appears to be exactly what it sounds like." Theodore's voice boomed cheerfully from the speakers. "Oh, you've heard of our sister resorts. Wonderful operations, all of them. Though I have to say, Black Hole Bungee is for real adrenaline junkies. We had a guest last month who managed to slingshot around the event horizon 17 times before the temporal distortion effects wore off. Came back 3 days younger than when he started. Can't get that kind of service at a regular spa." Commander Groningstone's voice had taken on the hollow quality of someone whose grip on reality had been officially revoked. "Sir, I'm also detecting what appears to be wedding venues on several Class 19 Deathworlds. Wedding venues. The humans appear to have a saying, 'Till death do us part.' Apparently they've decided to make it more of a sporting event than a figure of speech." "That's romantic," enthused Theodore. "Nothing says eternal love quite like promising to stick together while being chased by radioactive lava monsters. Really puts that whole for better or worse thing into perspective." Chairman Dreadbringer stared at his empty flask with the expression of someone who just realized that the universe was not only stranger than he imagined, but stranger than he could imagine. "Mr. Ironheart," he said slowly, "we're going to need to conduct an official inspection of your facilities." "Fantastic! We'd be delighted to have you. Fair warning, though. Our standard guest orientation includes a brief survival course, emergency medical training, and last will and testament preparation. Just routine stuff. When can we expect you?" "We'll need to prepare a specialized inspection team." "Oh, don't worry about that. We provide all necessary protective equipment. Our only requirement is that you sign our standard liability waiver." "Liability waiver? Just a formality, really. Standard boilerplate stuff about assuming all risks, including but not limited to spontaneous combustion, dimensional displacement, temporary or permanent molecular reorganization, existential crisis, and the possibility of accidentally becoming a minor deity. The legal department insisted we add that last one after the incident with the quantum hot springs." Querblat made a sound that could generously be described as a whimper. We'll send our finest inspection team," managed the chairman. "Wonderful. Should we prepare for a standard inspection, or would you prefer the deluxe package? The deluxe includes a complimentary survival dinner served on an active fault line, followed by a relaxing midnight stroll through our temporal anomaly garden. Standard will be fine. Excellent. We'll have the landing pad cleared of most of the explosive debris. See you soon. The transmission ended, leaving the three officials sitting in a silence so profound it seemed to have its own gravitational field. Finally, Querblat spoke. Sir, who exactly are we going to send on this inspection? Chairman Dreadbringer contemplated this question with the careful attention it deserved. The inspection team would need to be brave, experienced, and preferably already dead so they wouldn't mind the inevitable outcome. Get me the Emergency Response Division, he said finally, and tell them to update their life insurance policies. 3 days later, Inspector Valdris Nervrek stood at the airlock of the survey ship, cautious optimism, staring at his reflection in the reinforced viewing port and wondering what he'd done in his previous life to deserve this assignment. The ship's captain, a grizzled veteran named Grimpus Hopelessly Lost, had been unnaturally cheerful throughout the journey, which was never a good sign. "Beautiful planet," Captain Hopelessly Lost announced as they approached Kepler 442b. "Look at those lovely volcanic eruptions and those charming acid storms. Really puts you in touch with the raw power of nature." Inspector Nervrek suspected the captain had been spending too much time reading human tourism brochures. "Sir," came the voice of Navigator Felicity Panic-Button, "I'm receiving a transmission from the surface. They're asking if we'd like to upgrade to the VIP landing experience." "What's the VIP landing experience?" asked the inspector, immediately regretting the question. "Apparently, instead of landing on their regular pad, they guide you down through an active volcanic eruption while their resident human musician plays something called Danger Zone on a flame-resistant guitar." Tell them we'll take the standard landing," said Inspector Nervrek quickly. "They say the standard landing includes a complimentary fruit basket and a brief encounter with their pet seismic activity." "Pet seismic activity?" "Yes, sir. They've apparently trained a minor earthquake to perform tricks for arriving guests." Inspector Nervrek closed his eyes and began the Vorthak meditation technique for accepting the inevitability of cosmic horror. The landing pad turned out to be a perfectly ordinary piece of crystallized volcanic rock, if you ignored the fact that it was surrounded by geysers of molten metal and what appeared to be a welcoming committee of humans in tropical shirts. "Welcome to Danger Point," shouted a tall human male wearing a shirt decorated with exploding volcanoes and a smile that could power a small star. "I'm Theodore Ironheart, and this is our head of guest relations, Penelope Brightwater." Penelope bounced forward with the kind of enthusiasm usually reserved for puppies and people who just discovered ice cream. She was wearing a sundress that seemed to be made entirely of some material that reflected the ambient radiation in cheerful rainbow patterns. "We're so excited to have our first official galactic inspection," she gushed. "We've prepared a special tour that highlights all our most popular amenities. Would you like to start with the lava pools or the acid rain meditation garden?" Inspector Nervrek looked around at the hellish landscape, noting with professional interest that several of the palm trees appeared to be on fire and that the humans seemed to consider this normal. "Perhaps we could start with the safer areas," he suggested hopefully. Theodore and Penelope exchanged glances. "Oh dear," said Theodore, "I'm afraid we don't really have any safe areas. That's rather the point. But don't worry, we have an excellent safety record." "You do?" "Absolutely. We've never had a single guest complain about being bored. Granted, some of them have been too busy screaming to fill out the satisfaction survey, but we interpret that as enthusiasm." Penelope nodded eagerly. "Plus our medical facility is state-of-the-art. We can treat everything from minor radiation poisoning to complete molecular dissolution. Our head doctor, Ophelia Defying Death, used to work in the emergency room of a human hospital, so she's used to impossible medical situations." "How reassuring," muttered Inspector Nervrek. Captain Hopelessly Lost bounded down the ship's ramp with disturbing vigor. Magnificent facilities. I can already feel my stress melting away, along with the outer layer of my epidermis. That's the spirit, cheered Theodore. The mild tissue damage is completely normal. Your cellular regeneration should kick in within a few hours. Now who's ready for the grand tour? What followed could only be described as a guided journey through the 7 circles of someone's particularly creative nightmare, if that someone had a hospitality degree and an unhealthy relationship with danger. The lava pools turned out to be exactly what they sounded like. Pools of actual lava that humans somehow used for relaxation. Inspector Nerve-Wreck watched in horrified fascination as a human female named Brunhilde Fireheart performed what she called volcanic yoga while standing waist-deep in molten rock. The key, she explained cheerfully, is to embrace the burning sensation. It's like a full-body exfoliation that also builds character. How is she not dead? Whispered Navigator Panic Button. Oh, humans have this wonderful adaptation called extreme stubbornness, explained Penelope. When faced with impossible circumstances, instead of dying like sensible creatures, they just decide not to and carry on with whatever they were doing. The Acid Rain. Meditation Garden featured a lovely collection of crystalline formations that grew by dissolving and reforming in the corrosive precipitation. Several guests sat in lotus position, apparently finding the experience of being slowly dissolved and rebuilt to be deeply spiritual. It's like a rebirth experience, explained a guest named Maximilian Burnbright, whose skin appeared to be regenerating in real time. Every cell in your body gets a chance to start fresh. Very therapeutic. Inspector Nerve-Wreck made careful notes, mostly consisting of variations on how and why, written in increasingly shaky handwriting. The Temporal Anomaly Garden was perhaps the most disturbing attraction, featuring plants that grew backwards in time and benches that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. A small sign read, "Please do not feed the causality loops." We had to add that sign after a guest tried to tip the time dilation roses, explained Theodore. Created a small paradox that lasted 3 weeks. Beautiful effect, but it did make scheduling rather difficult. The roses. Travel through time? Only on weekends. Weekdays, they're perfectly normal, impossible flowers that exist in quantum superposition, much more relaxing. By the time they reached the gravity anomaly swimming pool, which was somehow filled with water that fell upward, Inspector Nerve-Wreck had filled 17 pages of notes and was seriously considering a career change. The pool is very popular with our honeymoon guests, Penelope mentioned casually. There's something deeply romantic about swimming through 3-dimensional space while gravity tries to decide which direction is up. Captain Hopelessly Lost was having the time of his life, asking detailed questions about the engineering required to make water ignore basic physics and taking holographic selfies next to various impossible phenomena. "This is incredible," he enthused. "How do you even begin to build something like this?" "Very carefully," laughed Theodore. "We lost our first 3 construction crews to dimensional displacement, but the 4th crew figured out that if you don't think too hard about what you're doing, reality gets confused and just lets you get away with it. That's not how physics works," protested Navigator Panic Button weakly. "Oh, physics works just fine," assured Penelope. "It's just that humans have this wonderful talent for convincing physics to try new things. We like to think of ourselves as cosmic life coaches for the fundamental forces of the universe." The tour continued through amenities that defied not only physics, but common sense, basic logic, and several important philosophical concepts. There was a spa that offered massages by trained earthquake tremors, a restaurant that served meals cooked by controlled stellar radiation, and a gift shop that somehow sold bottled volcano breath and crystallized time. But it was the guest testimonials that truly broke Inspector Nerve-Wreck's already fragile grip on reality. "I've been coming here for 5 years," declared a regular guest named Bartholomew Extremeheart. "I've been dissolved, reconstituted, temporally displaced, and once I accidentally became a small nebula for an afternoon. Best vacation of my life. My wife and I had our wedding here," added another guest, pointing to a woman who was currently having a pleasant conversation with what appeared to be a sentient plasma storm. The ceremony was beautiful. The priest only caught fire twice, and the reception was held in a parallel dimension where the catering was absolutely divine. "The children's program is excellent too," chimed in a family guest. "My daughter learned to speak fluent volcano, and my son made friends with a friendly black hole. They're pen pals now." Inspector Nerve-wreck stared at the small child, who was indeed exchanging what looked like letters with a swirling vortex of absolute darkness. "How?" he whispered. "Kids adapt so quickly," beamed the child's mother. "At first, little Timmy was nervous about the gravitational time dilation, but now he just thinks of it as getting extra playtime. An hour in the playground equals 3 hours in normal space-time." By the end of the tour, Inspector Nerve-wreck had witnessed humans treating certain death as mild inconvenience, using fundamental forces of nature as recreational equipment, and somehow managing to have fun while doing it. "So," said Theodore brightly as they returned to the main lodge, "what do you think? Are we ready for our official galactic classification?" Inspector Nerve-wreck looked around at the impossible resort, the cheerfully suicidal humans, and the laws of physics that seemed to have given up and gone home. He began, then stopped. "How do you classify something that shouldn't exist, run by people who shouldn't be alive, catering to guests who should be dead?" "Perhaps," he said carefully, "we need to create a new classification system." "Oh, how exciting!" squealed Penelope. "Will we be the first Class 21 Deathworld?" "I'm thinking more along the lines of impossible but somehow functional," muttered the inspector. "That's a wonderful name for a classification, very descriptive." 3 hours later, Inspector Nerve-wreck found himself back aboard the Cautious Optimism, staring at his report and wondering if anyone would believe it. Captain Hopelessly Lost had extended their stay by a week and was currently enjoying something called a quantum uncertainty massage in the ship's medical bay, which had somehow been converted into a temporary spa facility by the helpful resort staff. "Sir," came Navigator Panic Button's voice, "I'm receiving a transmission from the Galactic Council. They're asking for a preliminary report." Inspector Nerve-wreck activated the communication array with the weary resignation of someone who was about to try explaining the unexplainable to people who specialized in not believing the unbelievable. "Chairman Dreadbringer," he began, "I'm afraid our inspection has raised some complications. Complications? Sir, the humans aren't just surviving on this Class 20 Deathworld, they're thriving. More than that, they've created a successful business model around activities that should theoretically result in instant death." "I see. And are they violating any galactic safety regulations?" Inspector Nerve-wreck consulted his notes, which by now resembled the fevered scribblings of someone who'd stared too long into the cosmic abyss and found it staring back while wearing a Hawaiian shirt. "Sir, they're violating regulations that don't exist yet because no one ever imagined anyone would be stupid enough to try what they're doing." "Stupid enough? Or brave enough? Or crazy enough? Honestly, sir, I'm no longer sure there's a difference." There was a long pause from the other end of the communication. "Inspector," came the chairman's voice finally, "in your professional opinion, do these humans pose a threat to galactic safety?" Inspector Nerve-wreck considered this question while watching a human guest outside his viewport attempt to teach a volcanic geyser to perform synchronized swimming routines. "No, sir. I don't think they pose a threat to galactic safety. I think they pose a threat to galactic sanity." "Explain." "Sir, within 6 hours of our arrival, half my crew had signed up for the resort's mailing list. My navigator is currently planning her honeymoon here, and my captain has put in a request for extended leave so he can complete something called the Extreme Survival Certification Program. Dear Cosmic Forces, it gets worse, sir. The humans are nice. They're genuinely, enthusiastically helpful. They want to share their impossible vacation experiences with the rest of the galaxy. They're talking about opening franchise locations. The silence that followed was the kind of silence that occurs when the universe pauses to contemplate the full implications of humans with a business plan. "Inspector," said the chairman finally, "are you recommending we shut down the operation?" "Sir, I don't think we can shut it down. According to the resort's legal department, they've somehow managed to register their operation in 17 different dimensional jurisdictions, 3 of which don't technically exist yet. Their business license was apparently approved by a cosmic entity that specializes in impossible paperwork. That's not possible. Sir, with respect, I've stopped using the word impossible in any official capacity. The humans seem to take it as a personal challenge." 2 weeks later, the Galactic Council convened an emergency session to address what had officially become known as the human problem. Chairman Dreadbringer stood before the assembled representatives of 47 different species, holding a report that had required the creation of entirely new categories of bureaucratic impossibility. "Fellow council members," he began, "we are faced with a situation that is both unprecedented and, apparently, completely normal for the species known as humans." The Zelnarian representative, a creature that resembled a nervous jellyfish, raised one of its tentacles. "Chairman, is it true that they've established similar facilities on Class 19 through Class 25 Deathworlds?" "Yes." Inspector Nervrek's follow-up report confirms the existence of human vacation destinations on planets that were previously considered uninhabitable by anything, including extremophile bacteria and cosmic radiation. The Blorvian delegate, whose species had evolved the ability to faint at will as a defense mechanism, promptly fainted. "More concerning," continued the chairman, "is that they're actively recruiting other species to join them. 3 Galactic Council members have already submitted vacation requests." A murmur of horror rippled through the assembly. "Furthermore," the chairman pressed on, "their tourism board has submitted an application to host the next intergalactic peace summit on what they describe as a charming little planet with exciting tectonic activity and a delightfully unpredictable magnetosphere." The Zelnarian representative made a sound like a deflating balloon. "They want to host a peace summit on a death world? They argue that the shared experience of mortal terror would promote better diplomatic relations. Their slogan is, 'Nothing brings people together like the very real possibility of dying together.'" That's actually not a terrible point," admitted the delegate from Proxima 7, whose species had evolved from particularly anxious prey animals. "What?" shrieked several other delegates simultaneously. "Well, think about it. Most of our diplomatic disputes stem from species not understanding each other's perspectives. If we're all equally terrified and trying not to die, we might actually find common ground." The chairman watched with growing alarm as several other delegates began nodding thoughtfully. "Absolutely not," he said firmly. "We are not going to solve galactic diplomatic issues by collectively jumping into volcanoes." Why not?" asked the human delegate, who had somehow appeared in the assembly hall, despite not actually being an official member of the Galactic Council. Everyone turned to stare at Ambassador Diana Fearless Wonder, who was wearing a business suit that seemed to be made of crystallized starlight and carrying a briefcase that hummed with barely contained energy. "How did you get in here?" demanded the chairman. "Oh, your security system is lovely, very thorough. I particularly enjoyed the quantum encryption puzzles. They made excellent brain teasers during the shuttle ride over. I hope you don't mind, but I brought some promotional materials." She opened her briefcase, and the assembly hall was suddenly filled with holographic brochures advertising vacation packages to places that shouldn't exist. As I was saying, continued Ambassador Fearless Wonder cheerfully, why not solve diplomatic disputes through shared extreme experiences? We've found that nothing builds trust quite like depending on each other for survival. Plus, our resorts offer excellent conference facilities. The Molten Core Convention Center on Kepler 442b can accommodate up to 5,000 delegates, and the lava-heated meeting rooms provide a wonderfully energizing atmosphere. Because, said the chairman through gritted teeth, diplomatic summits are supposed to be safe. But are they effective? Countered the ambassador. How many centuries have various species been holding safe, comfortable diplomatic meetings that accomplish absolutely nothing? Our approach guarantees results. When everyone's survival depends on cooperation, amazing things happen. The delegate from the cautious civilization raised a nervous appendage. Do you have any data to support this claim? Absolutely. Our resort has hosted 12 interspecies conferences in the past year. The average agreement time has been reduced from 6 months to 47 minutes. Turns out, when the meeting room is slowly filling with toxic gas, people become very motivated to reach consensus. That's actually impressive, admitted the Zelnarian representative. Plus, added Ambassador Fearless Wonder, our catering is exceptional. Nothing tastes quite like a meal that's been prepared using controlled stellar radiation. And our team-building activities are unforgettable. Last month, we had a corporate retreat where the entire board of directors learned to communicate through interpretive dodging of meteor showers. Productivity increased by 300%. The chairman felt his last vestiges of sanity packing their bags and heading for the exit. Ambassador, he said carefully, are you seriously suggesting that we can solve galactic diplomatic issues by putting everyone in mortal danger? Not mortal danger, Chairman. Controlled, therapeutic, character-building danger. There's a huge difference. Mortal danger is unplanned and chaotic. Our danger is carefully managed, professionally supervised, and comes with complementary safety equipment. What kind of safety equipment? Well, for instance, our diplomatic hazmat suits are designed to withstand temperatures up to 3,000 degrees, protect against 17 different types of radiation, and they come in a variety of fashionable colors. Plus, each suit includes a built-in communication system, emergency beacon, and a small compartment for storing important documents. Or personal effects. Why would we need to store personal effects in a hazmat suit? Oh, just in case. Sometimes reality gets a bit flexible around our facilities. It's always good to have a backup plan when dealing with fundamental forces that don't always play by the rules. The assembly hall fell silent as the delegates contemplated a universe where diplomatic hazmat suits were not only necessary, but fashionable. Finally, the delegate from the ultra-safe collective spoke up. Ambassador, what exactly happens if someone gets injured during one of these diplomatic sessions? Excellent question. Our medical facilities are second to none. We have doctors who specialize in treating injuries that don't technically exist yet, and our emergency response team has experience with everything from temporal displacement to accidental dimensional phase shifting. Accidental dimensional phase shifting? Oh yes. It's much more common than you'd think. Just last week, we had a guest who accidentally slipped into a parallel universe during a massage. Took us 3 days to fish him out, but he came back with some wonderful insights about alternative approaches to quantum mechanics. Really broadened his perspective. The chairman activated his emergency stress reduction protocols, which involved breathing exercises and contemplating the possibility of early retirement to a nice, quiet planet where the most dangerous thing was aggressive houseplants. Ambassador, he said finally, even if we were to consider your unique approach to diplomacy, how would we ensure the safety of our delegates? Oh, that's easy. We provide comprehensive training. Our 3-day Survival Basics for Galactic Diplomats course covers everything from how to negotiate while being chased by lava to maintaining professional composure during temporal anomalies. It's quite popular. 3 days. Well, the intensive course is 3 days. We also offer a weekend workshop for busy diplomats who just need the highlights. That one focuses on essential skills, like emergency diplomatic immunity protocols and how to sign treaties while your pen is melting. The delegate from the overly cautious hegemony made a strangled noise. Your pens melt? Only the regular ones. That's why we provide special high-temperature diplomatic writing instruments. They're guaranteed to function in conditions up to 4,000 degrees. Plus, they write in 17 different languages and can be used as emergency flares. This is madness, declared the representative from the Sensible Species Alliance. This is innovation, countered Ambassador Fearless Wonder. For too long, galactic diplomacy has been constrained by outdated concepts like safety and survival instincts. We're pioneering a new era of diplomatic relations based on shared adversity and mutual dependence. You're pioneering a new era of death, only occasionally and always with proper forms filed in advance. Our mortality rate has dropped to less than 2%, which is actually better than most traditional diplomatic summits when you factor in stress-related health issues and death by boredom. The chairman felt a migraine coming on that operated in dimensions he didn't know he had. "Ambassador," he said slowly, "are you telling us that traditional diplomatic meetings have a higher mortality rate than your volcano-based conferences?" Statistically speaking, yes. Though I should clarify that our 2% includes temporary deaths, which we've gotten quite good at reversing. Plus, most of our fatalities are really more like extended sabbaticals in alternative dimensions. Very educational. Temporary deaths? Oh yes, modern medical technology is wonderful. Just last month we had a delegate who was accidentally vaporized during a treaty signing ceremony. Our medical team had him reconstituted within the hour. He said it was quite relaxing, actually. Very meditative. The silence that followed was the kind of silence that occurs when reality gives up trying to make sense and goes to lie down in a dark room. "I need to see credentials," announced the chairman weakly. "Certifications, evidence that you're qualified to host diplomatic events." "Of course." Ambassador Fearless Wonder reached into her briefcase and produced a stack of documents that seemed to glow with their own inner light. "Here's our certification from the Interdimensional Hospitality Guild, our safety rating from the Cosmic Insurance Consortium, and our 5-star review from the Universal Tourism Board." The chairman examined the documents with growing bewilderment. They appeared to be legitimate, issued by organizations he'd never heard of, but which seemed to have proper bureaucratic letterheads and official seals. Who exactly is the Interdimensional Hospitality Guild? Oh, they're the premier certification body for businesses that operate across multiple realities. Very exclusive. You have to demonstrate competency in at least 17 impossible scenarios before they'll even consider your application. And the Cosmic Insurance Consortium? They specialize in coverage for events that technically can't happen. Wonderful company. Very understanding about claims involving temporal paradoxes and spontaneous dimensional rifts. The delegate from the Practical People's Republic raised a tentative appendage. "I hate to ask, but what's your premium like?" "Surprisingly reasonable. The secret is that most cosmic insurance companies operate on the principle that if something is truly impossible, the chances of it actually happening are mathematically negligible, so they're happy to insure impossible events at very competitive rates. But if the events aren't actually impossible, well, that's where it gets interesting. Our insurance provider has had to create entirely new actuarial tables. They're pioneers in the field of improbable but inevitable risk assessment. Very cutting-edge work." The chairman looked around the assembly hall, noting with growing alarm that several delegates were actually taking notes and asking follow-up questions about booking procedures. "Absolutely not," he declared. "The Galactic Council will not be holding diplomatic summits on Deathworlds." "Oh, I completely understand your concerns, Chairman," said Ambassador Fearless Wonder sympathetically. "Change can be frightening. That's why we're offering a trial package. Host just one small diplomatic meeting at one of our facilities, maybe a minor trade negotiation or a simple treaty renewal, and see how it goes. We're so confident in our approach that we're offering a full money-back guarantee." "Money-back guarantee? Absolutely. If any delegate dies permanently, is lost in an alternate dimension for more than 72 hours, or suffers any form of existential crisis that can't be resolved through therapy, we'll refund your entire conference fee." "That's actually not a terrible offer," admitted the delegate from the Bargain Hunting Federation. "It's a terrible offer because the entire premise is insane," shrieked the chairman. But it was too late. He could see it in their eyes, that particular gleam that species get when they're presented with something that's simultaneously terrifying and irresistibly intriguing. "Perhaps," suggested the Zelnarian representative carefully, "we could start with something small, a minor inter-system trade dispute, nothing too important." "Wonderful idea," enthused Ambassador Fearless Wonder. "We have the perfect venue. Our Asteroid Belt Conference Center in the Proxima Danger Zone. It's ideal for small meetings, only moderate risk of cosmic ray exposure, and the gravitational anomalies are quite manageable. Plus, the view of the exploding binary star system is spectacular." "Exploding binary star system? Very distant explosions. Hardly any radiation reaches the facility. Well, not enough to cause serious problems, and our shielding is excellent. We've only had 3 minor incidents involving spontaneous molecular excitement." "What's spontaneous molecular excitement?" "Oh, it's when atoms get so energized by cosmic radiation that they start vibrating in dimensions that don't technically exist. Creates a lovely tingling sensation, very therapeutic." The chairman watched in horror as his carefully ordered universe of bureaucratic procedures and safety regulations crumbled around him like a house of cards in a hurricane. "Fine," he said finally, his voice hollow with defeat. "One trial conference, the smallest possible diplomatic event we can arrange. Minimal attendees, maximum safety precautions." "Excellent," cheered Ambassador Fearless Wonder. "I'll start preparing the arrangements immediately. This is going to be so much fun. It's going to be a disaster." "Oh, absolutely. But it'll be a memorable disaster. And isn't that what diplomacy is really about? Creating memorable experiences that bring people together?" "No," said the chairman firmly. "Diplomacy is about not dying." "Well, yes, that too. But why not aim higher? Why settle for merely surviving when you could thrive while testing the very limits of cosmic possibility?" 6 weeks later, the first intergalactic diplomatic conference to be held on a Class 19 Deathworld convened in the Asteroid Belt Conference Center, located on what had once been a perfectly stable asteroid before humans got involved. The attending delegates represented 7 minor species, engaged in a dispute over mining rights to a small moon that nobody particularly wanted, but which had become a matter of principle. Chairman Dreadbringer stood in the observation deck of the emergency response vessel Last Resort, watching through reinforced viewing ports as shuttles ferried delegates to the conference facility. "Sir," reported Commander Groningstone, "all delegates have arrived safely. The facility reports no major incidents during docking procedures." "What constitutes a minor incident?" "Apparently, 2 delegates experienced brief dimensional displacement during the airlock sequence, but they were retrieved within acceptable parameters and reported the experience as interesting." "Interesting?" "Yes, sir. One delegate described it as like being turned inside out, but in a good way." The chairman activated his emergency stress medication and settled in to monitor what would either be a groundbreaking diplomatic success or the most expensive disaster in galactic history. The conference began with what Ambassador Fearless Wonder called ice-breaking activities, which apparently involved the delegates working together to prevent the conference facility from being destroyed by a passing meteor shower. Brilliant team-building exercise, her voice crackled over the communication system. Nothing brings people together quite like shared responsibility for mutual survival. I can already see the delegates bonding as they coordinate the emergency defense protocols. Emergency defense protocols? Asked the chairman weakly. Oh yes, each conference table is equipped with personal force field generators and emergency teleportation beacons. The delegates just need to work together to maintain the protective barriers while our automated systems handle the larger debris. It's quite intuitive once you get the hang of it. Through the viewing port, the chairman could see the asteroid facility glowing with defensive energy fields as chunks of cosmic debris bounced harmlessly off the barriers. Inside the transparent conference dome, the delegates appeared to be frantically pressing buttons and shouting instructions at each other. Are they in actual danger? Oh, only moderate danger. The meteors are mostly small ones, nothing larger than a shuttlecraft. And our emergency systems are fully automated. Even if the delegates make mistakes, the backup systems will prevent any serious damage. What constitutes serious damage? Complete destruction of the facility or permanent loss of more than 30% of the attendees. We have very reasonable standards. An hour into the conference, something remarkable began to happen. The delegates, who had arrived barely speaking to each other due to their ongoing dispute, were now working together with impressive efficiency to coordinate their defense systems while simultaneously negotiating their trade agreement. Fascinating, observed Commander Groaning Stone. They're actually making progress on both fronts. Sir, added the communications officer, I'm monitoring their internal discussions. They've reached preliminary agreement on mining schedules, and two delegates have apparently formed a friendship based on their shared expertise in emergency force field calibration. You know, admitted the chairman reluctantly, this is actually working. The conference concluded 3 hours later with a fully ratified trade agreement, a new interspecies friendship treaty, and what appeared to be plans for a joint vacation to another human resort facility. Outstanding results, announced Ambassador Fearless Wonder as the delegates prepared to return to their shuttles. Not only did we achieve all diplomatic objectives, but we also set a new conference speed record. Plus, everyone learned valuable emergency response skills. Any casualties? Asked the chairman, almost afraid to hear the answer. None whatsoever. Though I should mention that Delegate Trimblex from the nervously optimistic coalition did experience a brief moment of existential enlightenment when a particularly large meteor fragment passed within 3 meters of his position. He's reported feeling much more confident about life in general. Existential enlightenment. Oh yes, it's a common side effect of our extreme diplomatic experiences. Something about facing the vast indifference of the cosmos while trying to negotiate trade agreements really puts things in perspective. Several delegates have requested information about our personal development workshops. 2 months later, the Galactic Council was forced to create an entirely new department, the Bureau of Impossible Diplomatic Relations, specifically designed to handle the growing number of requests for extreme venue conferences. Ambassador Fearless Wonder had been appointed as the official liaison between the human hospitality industry and galactic diplomacy, a position that came with its own dedicated medical team and a budget line item for reality stabilization expenses. The demand has been extraordinary, she reported to the council during their monthly briefing. We've hosted 47 diplomatic conferences across 12 different Deathworlds. Customer satisfaction ratings are through the roof. Well, metaphorically speaking, literally speaking, most of our roofs have been destroyed by cosmic phenomena, but that's part of the charm. And the success rate? Asked Chairman Dreadbringer, who had developed a nervous tic involving his left tentacle, but had grudgingly admitted that the results were impressive. 100% successful diplomatic resolution. Plus, we've had several bonus outcomes. 3 interspecies wars have been prevented, 2 new trade alliances have formed, and 1 delegate discovered a previously unknown talent for cosmic surfing. Cosmic surfing? Oh, it's wonderfully relaxing. You use solar wind currents to navigate through asteroid fields while conducting sensitive negotiations. Really helps with concentration. The delegate from the extremely concerned collective raised a worried appendage. Ambassador, while we appreciate the diplomatic successes, are you certain these activities are sustainable? Absolutely. In fact, we're expanding. Next month, we're opening our first deep space diplomatic resort located in the event horizon of a friendly black hole. Friendly black hole? Oh yes, we've established an excellent working relationship with the local gravitational anomaly. Very cooperative. It's agreed to moderate its tidal forces during conferences in exchange for interesting stories about galactic politics. You've negotiated with a black hole? Well, not directly. The negotiations were conducted through our specialist in extreme cosmological relations, lovely fellow named Cosmos Whisperton. He has a natural talent for communicating with celestial phenomena. The chairman felt his grip on sanity, making one final desperate attempt to hold on before giving up entirely and filing for permanent vacation leave. Ambassador, he said with the calm of someone who had passed beyond panic into a realm of cosmic acceptance, what exactly does our future hold? Oh, wonderful things. We're working on plans for diplomatic conferences in parallel dimensions, treaty signings in the cause of dying stars, and we've received several requests for wedding ceremonies in the quantum foam of collapsed space-time. Wedding ceremonies? Very popular. Nothing says eternal love quite like promising to stay together across multiple dimensions. Plus, the photos are spectacular, though they do require special viewing equipment to prevent temporal displacement. The assembly hall filled with the sound of delegates either laughing hysterically or weeping quietly, and sometimes both simultaneously. The universe, declared Ambassador Fearless Wonder cheerfully, is about to become a much more interesting place. And indeed it was. Because if there's one thing humans excel at, it's taking the impossible and making it not only possible, but profitable, enjoyable, and somehow completely reasonable once you stop thinking about it too hard. The Galactic Council's final report on the matter concluded with a single line that would become famous throughout the galaxy. We have learned that the most dangerous thing in the universe is not a black hole, a supernova, or even a Class 20 Deathworld. The most dangerous thing in the universe is a human with a business plan and a sincere desire to help.